I felt better off drinking. And the problems just kept stacking up. And I was getting in trouble at school. I was going to jail. Was getting arrested. I got some DUIs in my 20s. And that was really when the legal stuff started to happen. It really started out of necessity. Like, how do I just stay out of prison? And then through basically they were like, well, you've got to go to rehab or you're going to jail. And it was there that I met other people going through the same thing that I was for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I didn't feel alone. Was the first time probably that I met other people that were going through the same thing. They were scared.
You were talking about the stigma, sort of the stigma that you felt around, like, I'm 20 years old. I've got all my shit together. I'm a normal kid. I'm a normal guy. I'm not an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't be an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And the sort of shame and stigma around it. And it sounds like, being in sharing space with other people who are dealing with the same or similar issues was like a relief. Like, I'm not so strange. I'm not so bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Not feeling alone, being able to openly talk about, what I was going through, I think that there's the stigma part of addiction is really awful. And, it just keeps a lot of people, I think, from seeking help.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I think to seek out help of your own volition, it requires an acceptance that there is a problem. And that alone can be pretty terrifying, to admit that something's wrong. Something's not right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you and I were speaking earlier this week, and you mentioned sort of you mentioned at the beginning of this interview, like, getting really into surfing by, even before you were able to surf a lot, just consuming surf media, magazines. I think of, like, being a part of skate culture and surf culture, of just sort of like the glorification of just getting fucked up and treating your body in, like, really, in a really reckless way. I also think of a lot of friends I have from skating who have had really serious drug issues. So I don't know. I'm not trying to place blame there. I think our culture glorifies drug use, trivializes and stigmatizes addiction. There's all these problems in our culture. So I'm not. But skating and surf culture are part of the broader culture. So I guess I wanted to ask you, like, if you've just thought about what you've thought about how drinking and using substances was sort of how it's sort of packaged in the media that we consume or consumed as younger surfers.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty close in age, and I think when we were coming up as teenagers, the culture at the time in surfing and skating and just board sports in general was very much about just getting fucked up.
Yeah.
Things like this weren't out in the open then. Like, there weren't, like, mental health podcasts in 1999.
Yeah.
It was, it was a cool time, but it was also, looking back, I look at, like, we were talking about the lost videos the other day.
Yeah.
Those lost videos that I just grew up on, idolizing guys like Chris Ward and these guys that were just doing the most outlandish shit, and just getting, so drunk, so high. And I just thought that was kind of part of the deal. Like, you surf, you skate, you drink, you smoke weed, you drugs, you party. There was like a shock value to it too. There was kind of that weird adjacent thing going on, that like skate adjacent thing going on with Jackass and CKY. And so I just kind of looked at surfing and skating as it's all just part of this big party.
Yeah.
It's just thrash and rage and go wild. And so I took that to heart in a big way. And I started to drink probably not long after I started to surf. It was around the same time. And, I'm not saying that like surfing turned me into an alcoholic by any stretch, but it definitely, the culture and the media that we were consuming at the time, definitely, it helped give me a nudge in that direction, for sure.
Maybe gave you some kind of permission. Like if this dude surfs this good and is this revered by the surf world, then, then maybe what he's doing is okay.
If I'm going to do air reverses, I've got to spend 12 beers.
Yeah. Is that how that works?
I don't know. And probably because I don't drink anymore, and
you don't do air reverses. Yes. That's proof of a causal relationship between those two.
Therefore, yes.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that I feel like culturally the conversation started. If I just personally feel like it started to change a little bit around the time that Andy Irons died. Back in, I think it was like 2010, and that was also about the same time that I started to question, maybe I have a really serious problem here. Maybe I need some help. Now, I feel like I can't even go surfing without having a conversation about mental health.
What do you mean by that?
I think that there's just something about surfing that attracts people that are looking for something else, that they just can't find on land. And there's also just this anonymity about being in the water that you can have sometimes these more intimate and honest conversations with people you may not even know that well. Just because there's already you already share something. You already shared surfing, and there just feels like some kind of sacred element to it. Like we're in this kind of sacred space. We can have these conversations. We're out in the water. We're away from land. We're away from all of that. I might not even see you again. You're just a bloke that just floated by.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed that at some of these moments that I have with people whose names I might not even recall, that felt really open and intimate that I wouldn't have on the street. I said earlier that my recovery community is probably my most important, but there's also the surfing community that I belong to, and there's a big overlap there between.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because I think that sometimes I wonder if a barrier to seeking help for some people is like a feeling or a fear that there's not going to be anyone like them, that they're not going to be accepted if they go to a meeting, or that they won't be able to find a a group that, or a therapist or whoever it is, they're not going to be able to connect with someone. They're not going to be able to find someone who relates to them. And I was wondering if there's, I don't know, if you can kind of demystify a little bit, like the kinds of people who you end up, when you're who you're doing work with, who you're supporting when you're in a meeting.
I was really surprised to realize that I was not the only young person getting sober. I felt like such a freak, only being in my 20s and already having hit a bottom and having to get help for it. So I was shocked when I realized how many young people, how many just normal, seemingly normal people are in programs of recovery. And it's not all just 65-year-old guys chain smoking cigarettes in a church basement. It's people from every single walk of life that you can imagine. And it's a very level playing field in terms of the walks of life. It's people just coming off the street. It's kids in college. It's therapists themselves. It's CEOs. Everybody. And it doesn't matter. I've met some very surprising people in recovery that I would have had no idea are sober if I had not just bumped into them at a meeting and heard them speak, and then see them on like CNN or MTV or something like that the next day. It's just another thing that they do. So I would say to the person who is terrified and feeling alone, that who feels like they're the only person going through this right now, there are a lot of us who have felt that way too, and you don't have to be alone. There are, in New York City alone, thousands of meetings a day.
So how would someone access that? I mean, I'm going to give some resources at the end, some like broader mental health resources. But if someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're like, I don't want to listen to these assholes talk anymore. I want to go to a meeting. I've heard enough. I've heard all I need to know. What should they do? How would they find help?
If you're looking for a meeting, a great place to look is Intergroup, which is it exists in basically any area you may live. Urban areas tend to have a lot more meetings than rural ones, but there are a lot of meetings in rural areas too. And there's a lot of great recovery out there as well. But basically, you can just go right into Google and just type in your city Intergroup, and an entire list of meetings will come up. You can also call them too. Most of them are staffed 24 hours a day, and have a hotline that you can call, and they'll look up meetings for you. I've volunteered at those places before and had people call me. Hey, I just flew into New York City. I'm in Queens right now. Is there a meeting anywhere nearby in the next half hour? I just look at the list. Yeah, actually, it looks like you're a 10-minute walk away from a meeting. It's in 20 minutes. Here are the directions. So Intergroup is a great way to get connected to a variety of meetings.
Are there meetings for folks who are interested in moderation, in harm reduction, who just want to reduce their maybe aren't ready to be fully sober or don't think that's necessary for them, but want to drink less or use different substances? Does Intergroup connect folks with those kind of meetings, or is it strictly like 12-step NAAA type meetings?
That would just be for strictly 12-step